kind of take my time, because you're still down those 28 meters. You know, there's a lot of time. And when you rush things from that height, it usually ends up bad. So I ended up over-rotating, landed pretty much square on my stomach.
Oh.
And, yeah, I kind of had some significant blood coming out of my esophagus, and I went to the hospital.
Hey everyone, welcome to the ROE Show. This week we have legendary professional cliff diver Andy Jones, who is going to be talking to us about the insider perspective of cliff diving. You may have seen Andy in Red Bull cliff diving or the USA cliff diving circuits. Only in the last several years was cliff diving considered a sport though, and Andy's going to walk us right through the development and some of the contrasts and similarities. Andy talks to us about some of the dangers of cliff diving and gives us a few high and low experiences from competing all over the world in this new freestyle sport. So if you're looking for another example of a new freestyle sport born out of a traditional sport, this episode's for you. Alright everyone, let's go. Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. I've been a big follower of all your stuff. I actually was talking to Red Bull at their headquarters about doing some trampoline stuff with them, kind of following the path that you guys have done with the cliff jumping. So how did you get into it? How did that whole thing develop with Red Bull specifically?
Well, I think for the most part, people that want to start doing the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series usually just end up seeing it. You see it somewhere and you think, wow, that's I think most people, the first time they see it, think it just looks crazy. Maybe that's something that you would never want to try. But after you've done a few high dives, you start thinking to yourself, maybe I could go compete with those guys on the circuit. And eventually you just wind up putting a video together, you send it off, and you get to training. So for the most part, it comes down to, can you do 4 dives safely from that height? And if you can do that, usually Red Bull's going to be pretty open to giving you a shot somewhere as a wild card diver. And I had a pretty good rapport with a couple of the guys that were on the series. They recommended me, and I got invited out to a competition in Boston back in 2011, I think. And we were jumping out to the Institute of Contemporary Arts. I showed up to the event really late. My flight got in late, and I was missing training, and I was really stressed. I got up on the roof of this building, and they had built this platform. The building's already overhanging the water into the Charles. And so from there, the platform is overhanging that. So it had this motion to it when you jumped on it. It was kind of wobbly.
Uh-oh, okay.
I just remember being up there thinking, is it, like, first of all, it was 30 feet. I thought I was going to die. I was like, is this even possible? It was 30 feet higher than what I was used to jumping in the show, because I was still working in the O show with Cirque du Soleil back in Las Vegas. And we jumped, in that show, it's 60 feet. And this platform was 90, so I was a little bit nervous, and one of the other divers did a dive in front of me, and I just thought, well, I guess it's doable, and so finally,
well, he survived.
Got
so
the
will too.
Yeah, I got to the edge, and I survived.
So you're on.
Yeah, it was a really mind sort of shattering couple of days, just doing dive after dive off this platform and realizing, wow, this is a sport that I never even knew existed until, a few months before, and now here we are.
That's
launching.
crazy. That is crazy. So how high do you guys jump in the cliff diving circuit with Red Bull?
So they keep the parameters, they try to keep them very set. And our platform can be as low as, I think, 26.5 meters. That's the lowest they can go, and the highest is 28 meters, or maybe 28.5. So they try to keep it within about a 4 foot, 4 feet of each other, so that we're diving from a consistent height. And to help you with, obviously, training. If you're training a dive and you think you're going to be competing from 70 feet and you show up and it's 90 feet, it's not going to be very valuable training, because obviously we're not training from a full 90 feet all the time. We just train from 10 meters for the most part.
Well, I was going to say, like, how do you make the jump from 10 meters to 26.5 meters? How do you make that jump without dying?
Well, that goes with, I would say, tank shows. I think most people learn high diving in a tank because you can move the perch 10 feet at a time if you want. You start from 30 feet, you go up to 40 feet, 50 feet, eventually you're at 70 feet, and the difference between 70 feet and 90 feet isn't huge. So if you do a whole bunch of reps from 70 feet, you start getting the feel for that branny and the speed, because things just happen a little bit quicker from those heights. Once you get really comfortable from that height, then you can start adding somersaults, adding twists, and typically I don't think people go much higher than 70 into the tank, just because it's really shallow water. But then eventually you take it up to the full height, and you just stick with those simple dives from the top, let's say. And again, you just dial those in. Once you get really confident with them, then you can start leading up other dives and making sure that you're mentally prepared once you're on the platform to actually execute what you've trained. Because that's where it gets really difficult. And I think all divers know you can do takeoffs from a 1 meter platform, and then you go up to do the actual dive from, let's say, 10 meters. It's really hard to keep those same mechanics. So you're really just prepping your mind. Like, your body can do the motions, you're just making sure that you are prepared mentally. And so when you're jumping up to 27 meters, 28 meters, it can be really difficult. So you just have to be really focused.
That is so cool. So it's a lot like snowboarding. We work with snowboarders, and they tell us the same thing, that, you can do only so many preps. They don't have all the equipment that gymnastics has. So when it's game time, it's basically more of a mental game than anything else, because you can't just take all the little baby steps. So that's the same for cliff diving.
Yeah, I think every sport, you try to find a progression that can work. And I know they do it on trampoline. I know I used to do it in freestyle skiing, and in cliff diving we absolutely do it now. It's sort of taken some time to develop a formula, so to speak, but we've sort of decided that if you do 2 flips from 10 meters, then if you take that same exact lead up to 27 meters and do the exact same trick, you'll come out with your feet to the water with 17 meters to do a branny. And if you just get used to doing a 17 meter branny, then any lead up, any 2 somersault lead up you do from 10 meters should feel exactly the same every single time from the top.
That's interesting.
So that's sort of where it built, I would say. And then obviously you can do more. You can go 3.5 somersaults from 10 meter, Steve LeBrew. He actually just does a front 2.5 from 5 meter to get the takeoff for his quint half, which I don't mess around with that. I stick to the 3 somersaults with a few twists. But yeah.
So you train, but then it's all mental, and you're almost doing like mental acrobatics to kind of formulate what flips are from the 10 meter, which is kind of your reference point, to then saying, well, if I double it here at this height, this is how long it takes me to do a flip by these normal measurements. Therefore, it will work, and then it's just now putting your mind to it and getting it done.
Exactly.
That's crazy. I don't know how to do that, man. I don't know. I think I would. I did the airbag thing. I built it up literally meter by meter with a crane, just up, up, up. This whole go from nothing and 0 to 100 in one jump. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys, you find your feet. You're really aware. I'm sure you'd be just fine. It's just more of, you don't need to be quite as efficient in high diving, I guess. On trampoline, you're getting flips done you're doing 4 or 5, 6 somersaults in, 18, 20 feet on the way up and the way down?
Well, you're jumping about, 20 to 23 feet, depending on how good you are, and you're doing doubles and triples 10 times in a row. So there's room for error where you guys, when we were off by a little bit, it'd be the same, I guess, for you guys just having a rough sort of landing where you're a little over, a little bit under. I remember cliff jumping in Amalfi Coast with Devin, and I landed a little short on a big Barani off like 70, 80 feet, and I felt like I got uppercut from like Muhammad Ali or something. I was like, ugh, and I just got frozen.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. So it's,
it startles you.
Yeah, man, I didn't realize, like, we did that video, and we did a week there every day, getting up at like 5 to go and find the new spots, and I was beat up. Everyone was just beat up after a week. I was like, I can't do this for an entire living. So you must have some tough skin, man.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all very calculated now. Like, when I go to an event, it's usually I arrive 3 days before the competition day, and we have 2 days of competition. So let's say I fly to Sarajevo in Bosnia, and then we drive to Mostar to jump off that bridge. So it's a really long flight, a huge time change, 9-hour time change, and then the next morning, like the following morning of my arrival, is training. So on the training day for something like that, I'm not going to do much because, first of all, I don't know if my body's ready to go. Usually I'll do one dive just to kind of see it. And then the next day is competition day. We have 2 dives the following day and 2 dives the following day after that. So then, basically, I just want to do each of my dives one time before I compete it, and that's it. Because on my last dive of the competition, I want to have like the gusto in my legs. I want to have like a full jump. I usually put my biggest dive last because it's just a nice way to gain some points, gain some ground. And it gives me a little bit of, I don't know, it gives me a little bit of hope because I've got my biggest dive still to come always. So it also takes a little bit of the pressure off. It's like, all right, well, just hit that last one and, we'll call it a competition. But it's definitely like fly out, 4 days later, fly home, and then do it all over again. And a lot of times those comps are sometimes back-to-back weeks, sometimes you have a week off, but it's really about body preservation for the length of the summer and just staying as healthy as you can. Hope that you've done enough training and preparation in the off season.
That is cool. How long is your season? So how long do you have to preserve yourself?
Well, usually we start in April and end in October or November. And between that time, there's about 15 competitions. 7 or 8 are Red Bull competitions, and then 6 or 7 more of just outside invitationals.
Okay, so it's go. You guys, it's not like for us we have a few major competitions nationally and then a few World Cups, and after about 8 competitions a year, major ones, that's it. So you guys have a bit more of a stint.
Yeah. And I guess I figure every competition's a week. So are you guys about the same when you you do a world event?
A week. You kind of fly in. Same thing. Training's usually the next day, and then you'll have a couple competition days. So depending on the size, you'll have to spread out qualifiers over 2 days, but sometimes you can get it done in one day, and then the finals will be the next day, kind of thing. Each one's a little bit different, but yeah, generally that's the same. So we're in and out though. Because again, it's more cost for the federations the longer we stay. So you're in basically the last possible moment, get your training in, make sure that's good, and then you're on the next day, kind of thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I just forgot what I was going to say. It's all good. I can edit that out. Going back to your mental training tactics. You said you have a formula that you've dialed in. Can you let us know what kind of goes through your head when you're about to do it? Like, do you talk to yourself? Is it just reimagining everything? Do you have a specific sort of chant that you do to yourself? Like, how do you get the courage to jump from 26.5 meters from, not being able to warm it up when you really got to go?
Well, that's a tough question. When I am doing my training, I'm essentially doing my 27-meter dives. So my 2 difficult dives are actually pretty simple in terms of, I guess in comparison to what some of the other guys are doing. But I do a front 3 somersaults with 2.5 twists, and a back 3 somersaults with 3 twists. And when I do those lead-ups from 10 meter, all I have to do is a front double pike from 10 meter with 2 twists. So I just do a double out to my feet. That's something that I've been doing for so many years now that, if I show up at a pool, I can walk up to 10 meter, do a couple of jumps and a couple jumping jacks, and I can get that dive off. My other one, back double with 2.5 twists from 10 meter. That one I like to have a couple build-ups, like a back somersault from 3 meter helps me. A back somersault from 1 meter can help me. And then I'll sometimes do a back somersault with 2.5 twists from 3 meter before I take it up to 10 meter. But again, if I do need to do these dives just on the spot from 27 meters, they're pretty ingrained in my brain, and I have a lot of confidence with them because I've done them so many times. So yeah, they're not super stressful for me, I guess.
So you don't have to tell yourself a trick or anything. It's really comes down to the training that ingrains it, so that when you are up there, you just remember your training.
Yeah, that's what I think. And especially if you've been training a lot, you can then hone in on smaller things, like because all you're thinking about is your takeoff. And so, like, instead of having to think about four things, you know, you're just thinking about one thing because everything else is automatic, hopefully.
That's very interesting. We always teach one thing at a time. You know, it gets me very annoyed when I see these coaches saying things like, oh, do this and this and this, and don't forget to focus, and oh, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, just pick one thing and build from there.
Just one.
Yeah, just one thing. Very cool. What is the best moment you have had when you have been cliff diving? Or whether it's with Red Bull or just on your own or with friends or whatever, what's your most favorite moment?
Well, let's see. I had a really fun competition in Italy that my parents were there, and they were out in a little boat watching. It's called Marmeeting, and it's on the Amalfi Coast of Italy. And I won the competition, but I won pretty reasonably. Like, I hit all my dives for 9s and 9.5s. I just remember standing on the platform for my last dive. I'm diving last because I'm in the lead, and just kind of looking out over that crystal clear Mediterranean water, and just thinking, like, this is this is pretty awesome. And then I nailed my last dive and won the competition. That's definitely one of my top moments, I think.
Awesome. That sounds good. Yeah, especially if you got the nice scenery and everything there. It just kind of... Do you feel small when you're standing up there about to jump? Because you're out with a big river, a big ocean, or a big lake or something, and you're a small little guy on a little platform. Do you feel like you're small?
No, I have some tricks for that too, actually. Because a lot of times when you're up on a 27, 28-meter platform, and if the water just goes forever, you look out and you think, oh my gosh, we're just impossibly high right now. And a lot of people don't want to go all the way up to the edge and look straight down. But when you do that, the water gets a lot closer, because that water is only 27 meters away. But if you're looking out on an angle, it's probably like 60 meters away. So, of course, it looks just ridiculously high. So my advice is look down. But look straight down. Walk right to the end, look straight down. And I do that almost every time. There's all kinds of photos of me, like with my hands on my knees looking over the edge of the platform. And I didn't realize I did that every time until I started seeing photos popping up over and over again, which they're really cool. I like the pictures, but it's just kind of funny. It's like this, just sort of an automatic thing that I do now.
Okay, well, hey, if it works, because, yeah, it gives you a perspective. It says, okay, this is where I'm going, and your brain can do some nifty calculations. It makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, it's just, once you are up, I'd say each new platform that you stand on, you have to get used to it, and you have to, like, get used to the surroundings. There's this one that I think of in Chichen Itza, Mexico, where we jumped into a cenote, and the platform was built up above the cenote to get us to the full height, and I didn't notice it before my competition dive, or maybe I didn't notice it before my training dive, but there's a tree that sort of juts out a little bit, almost straight across from the platform. And so when I took off for flying front, all I saw was this big tree right in front of me. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to remember that tree's there, and I'm going to be ready when I see it on my next jump in competition.
Oh, that's great. That must have freaked you out, because, like, when I think tree, I think ground, you know, so automatically I was like, oh, wait, what's that tree doing there? Oh,
wait a minute. Why is there a tree right here? Yeah, there's always something that you want to, like, I don't know, visuals are great, and you need to use them and not let them get into your head. But in cliff diving, you're always going to some new weird location in the Philippines or in South America. Or we were supposed to go to Bali this year. We were in Lebanon last year. And then, of course, we have our 4 or 5 repeats that we usually do. We got Italy, Mostar, Texas, etc. Some of the ones that we're very comfortable with. I don't know, the Azores, Portugal. We've been there 6 or 7 times. But yeah,
that is really cool.
Just getting used to.
Which country? Which country or which jump area, where the competition is? Which one's your favorite?
Oh, I have so many favorites. I mean, the Azores is beautiful. There's just incredible pictures every time we go there. The caldera is just something else. I know tons of incredible places in Italy. One of my favorites is that cave in Capri. I think you've done some jumps there.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, Indonesia. I think my favorite cliff ever was in the Mazul Islands in Indonesia. We were on a sailboat for 7 or 8 days, just sailing through the islands, finding cliffs to jump. Doing a little documentary down there. And we found this really crazy one that was it was big. It was probably 31 meters and overhanging. And I mean, the water down there is just beautiful, so clear. And you can see the reef under it, and the coral is alive, and there's just fish everywhere, and it's just super tropical, and there's islands popping up out of the ocean all over the place. And yeah, I was standing on this 105-foot cliff, looking out over all of this, and there's nobody. There's 10 of us in this little cove, and I did one of my favorite dives. It's 3-position triple half, and I nailed it. And I came up, and everybody was cheering, and I was just kind of like, what is this? Is this planet Earth? Where are we right now? It was just incredible feeling.
That is really, really cool. Yeah, you must get to see a lot of really cool stuff that a lot of people don't get to see. So that is awesome. That is really, really awesome. And if we jump now over to the business side of the Red Bull cliff diving structure, how does it work? How do you work your way up the Red Bull cliff diving structure? How do you work your way up the competition to eventually be a world champion? Is that what they call it, or is there a special name that they use?
World Series champion.
World Series champion. So how do you become a World Series champion? What do you have to do? How many points you got to score? How does that work?
Well, you got to figure out a way to beat Gary. I mean, the series has been dominated for, 7 years now by Gary Hunt. He's just incredibly good, incredibly consistent. He does super difficult dives, and he nails them for 9.5 and sometimes 10. For me to become a World Series champion, it would take a lot of training, and I think I would have to add a twist to both of my dives, and then still hit them for 9s pretty much every time. So what's that?
I was going to say, so how do you do the scoring? What exactly are you getting the score on?
So the judges score a dive based on that they're starting your dive at a 10, and they're going to deduct for your takeoff first, position in the air, and then your entry. So if you jump way out on your takeoff, like I sometimes do, that's a deduction. Maybe it's a point, maybe it's 2 points. If you crimp in your pike, that's a huge deduction because that's an incorrect position. But they're just basing they're not taking difficulty into account in any way. They're just watching the dive and seeing how well you execute it. So if they give your dive a 10, that means they think you executed that dive perfectly. Then your degree of difficulty gets factored in later. So it's multiplied by the degree of difficulty. So if it's a super simple dive and the judges give it a 10, let's say it gets 100 points. And then if somebody does an extremely difficult dive for 7.5, that still might get more points than the simple dive for 10s, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So you're separating the difficulty and the execution, put them together so that then you get an overall score. And what is the maximum score based on the Red Bull scoring system?
So right now, I think the most difficult dive, Dave Colturi is doing a reverse double somersault with 5 twists, and then Gary at one point was doing a front triple somersault with 4.5 twists.
Jesus.
So those two are, one of them is a 5.4, I think, and the other is a 5.3.
Like
so
5.3, like 5.3 added to 10?
So let's say with the judges, you always take the average. So you just take the 3 middle scores.
Okay.
So if you got 3 10s, a 9.5, and then 9 and how can I make this more simple? Let's say 8.5, 3 9s, and 1 9.5. So you drop the 8.5, drop the 9.5. You have 3 9s.
Okay.
So you take that 27, and then you times that by the degree of difficulty. So to get the highest possible score right now for anybody would be a 5.4 times a perfect score, which would be 30. So 150 plus about, 14 points, 164 points.
So 164 is what you're trying to get to, roughly.
Somewhere around there.
And
my perfect score would be a lot lower than that, because my degree of difficulty is a 4.6.
And what's the highest you've ever scored?
I think I got 9.5 on that dive.
And
so
the difficulty?
4.6.
So that would be 4.6 times 9.5 times 3 kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
28. It's like 28.5 times 4.6.
Okay, I can understand that. So it's just like over 100, 115. My math really sucks, so don't tell my math teachers. Okay, that
it'd probably be like 130 or so.
Yeah, 120, 130. Very cool, very cool. Now that definitely clears it up, so at least people can understand, what actually is going on when they see it. So I'm learning stuff because I've watched it on TV and everything, and it's really cool what you guys do, but I don't understand the scoring system. And is this scoring system any different than normal platform diving?
No, it's exactly the same.
So when you see, because I did a diving clinic once, and they tried to teach me the scoring system, your 106 Cs and this, that, and the other. I don't understand how that scoring system works. Can you run through it real quick?
So those are just dive numbers. That's just a way of labeling the dive. And I think that might be where diving differs from other sports. I think in, like, figure skating, you can change your routine. Like, you could just do a double instead of a triple. But in diving, you have to write down exactly what you're going to do the day before you do it. So that's all those dive numbers are saying. It's just very specific, like a 1 is a front, 2 is a back, 3 is a reverse, etc. And so you're writing exactly how many flips and how many twists you're going to do, and the position you're going to do them in. So like tuck, pike, or straight.
And that's all that means. So you're basically, it's just script for diving for the judges.
Right. And then the format, there's all sorts of different requirements. Like you have to choose dives from different takeoff groups. You can't repeat the same takeoff. You can't repeat. There's required dives that are a little bit simpler. So we have a voluntary that has a maximum degree of difficulty set at 3.8, and then the second round dive is an intermediate dive. That degree of difficulty is also set at 4.6, and then the last two dives are optional, so you can do as big a dive as you want, as many flips and as many twists as you can, but you still have to write all these things down before, like the day before, and you have to show that you can do these dives safely. That's another requirement that we have.
And is that why they do that? Is just for safety, to make sure no one just flops off the platform and wrecks themselves?
Right. You don't want somebody to just write down a huge dive just so that they try it in competition and then they wipe out.
Yeah, that would really suck. Has anyone ever died doing platform diving just at 10 meters? Because it is water. You get messed up, but would you die?
Well, I think I remember, I can't remember if it was a Russian diver. I can't remember where the guy was from, but it was back when Greg Louganis was diving, and Greg was doing that reverse 3.5 tuck on 10 meter. And so I remember someone else tried it, and I think they hit their head on the platform, and I think that might have been it for that one. But, I'm sure there's got to be deaths here and there, but I haven't heard about a lot.
Yeah,
Too many.
It doesn't seem like it. You don't think about it. Oh, another person died in diving. You don't really think about it, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of rescues in high diving. I remember one competition, I think I was in Abu Dhabi. I was up on the platform waiting for my dive, and one of the guys in front of me, he crashed. So the medical team got him out of the water. They got him on the backboard because he was unconscious. So they pulled him up, took him to the side, and then the next diver went, and he crashed too.
Jeez.
And went unconscious. And so they pulled him onto the backboard and took him to the side. And then they told me I needed to wait. And I thought, yeah. But then they said because both medical teams are busy. And I thought, oh my
We're
gosh.
overstaffed. We're understaffed.
Yeah. Yeah, we need. How many medical teams do we need for this? This doesn't sound good right now, but yeah, it's there's high risk in the sport, and we try to, prep as much as we can to take some of those risks away.
And what's the biggest injury you've ever had?
I had a really good crash in Thailand in 2013. I was actually trying to add a twist to my front twist. So I was going to do a front triple with 3.5 twists, and I got lost in the twist. I wasn't ready to do this dive. I should have done more prep. And I checked out. I remember I saw the cliff and kind of the sky, and I thought, okay, get it over to your feet. So I kind of did this side somersault over my feet. That was too quick. I needed to just kind of take my time because that one was 28 meters. There's a lot of time. And when you rush things from that height, it usually ends up bad. So I ended up over-rotating, landed pretty much square on my stomach.
Oh.
And, yeah, I kind of had some significant blood coming out of my esophagus, and I went to the hospital, got checked out, had about 6 weeks recovery when I got back to the States. But
anything broken, or what was the damage?
Just a lot of bruising in my ribs and what are they called? External intercostals. All along the cartilage around my rib cage was really bruised. Yeah, it was a pretty good crash.
Were you knocked out, or did you feel everything and you were just like frozen in time?
I was definitely concussed. I remember being on the boat and trying to remember what the cliff looked like, and eventually I figured it out, but I definitely had a concussion. But I stayed conscious. I surfaced on my own. I swam myself for a little bit, and I told the scuba divers to give me a second to catch my breath, and I knocked the wind out of myself. And then eventually they just took me, put me on the backboard, and off to the hospital we went.
Jesus, well, I'm glad you're okay, obviously. So you made a full recovery. What about that skill? Have you ever gone back and done that skill now?
No, I started doing the lead-ups a little while after, and then I thought, meh.
Some skills are just not worth it, eh?
Yeah, the lead-ups were just so-so, and they weren't really coming around, so I thought, well, I'd rather just be standing up there in full confidence than trying to huck this dive every time, and there's days where you just don't have your legs under you, and I don't want to be that exact, if I don't get every ounce of energy out of me, I'm not going to make this dive. I don't think that's the strategy I want to play.
No, it doesn't seem like a smart strategy. It seems like you're taking unnecessary risk, which is probably not really necessary, obviously.
Right.
So when you are training, like I've seen these new ones like Area 47, I think that's in Austria, maybe? And they have like a permanent sort of 26-meter structure. Are these more popular now that cliff diving is a lot more mainstream?
We're trying. They just built another one, another 27-meter setup in China. That one's in Guangzhou. No, it's a city called Jiaoqing. And that is the first real training facility. Area 47 has a 27-meter platform, and they have a hydraulic lift up to 20 meters. But Area 47 is outside, and it's in the Austrian Alps. So you have about 2.5 months of summer training window, whereas the one in China, you have a pretty good climate. It's a really nice training facility. You're training into a pool. They're trying to one in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale.
That would be a good spot for it.
So they're slowly trying to, build these facilities to train because they're recognizing it as an actual sport. We are accepted under FINA now, so we do have FINA World Cup and FINA World Championships, and they've been working to maybe put it in the Olympics, but at this point we need to get more girls involved, more countries in the girls' side.
But that leads me to my question: is how many, roughly, how big is your market for cliff diving? How many people would you say walk around on a regular basis and say, I'm a professional cliff diver on the World Series or circuit? What kind of numbers are we looking at here?
I think every year on the Red Bull Series, I think we have about 30 guys that compete between the series divers and the wild cards. And then probably substantially less for the girls, probably around 20, but either way, it's not enough. I think we would want somewhere in the realm of 60 per gender if it was ever going to get into the Olympics.
Very interesting. And how big is the FINA World Cup Series versus the Red Bull one?
Well, it's a little bit bigger because we're not capped on how many wild cards you can invite. Like, they can qualify 3 divers from each country, and qualifications for that aren't really something that's set. For us, for the U.S., we're based on our previous rankings and previous high diving performances. So basically, Steve and I, we're usually qualified for each event. But from other countries, maybe there's only one high diver from that country, so they're automatically pre-qualified. So we end up having a few more divers than at a Red Bull event. I mean, Red Bull, we have 14. This year, we're going to reduce that number to 12. At FINA events, we have around 30 competing.
So it's a small field. It's definitely a niche market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it will grow? Like, do you see it ever becoming really big, or is it just the barrier to entry is too high? It's always going to be a niche sort of spectacular sport, but not really for all the big numbers where, like baseball, basketball, they have a little ball, you kick it around, it's easy to do. It must be much harder to get into diving that way. So is that where
it's so specific. You have to have access to a 27-meter platform or a really sheer 27-meter cliff with nice deep water below it. I mean, and then you have to be ready and able and trained to go up there and do these dives from that height. You also need to have a safety team in the water, because if something goes wrong, you're going to sink. And yeah, you just it's still in a pretty high risk phase, and I think it'll always be high risk. But as far as growing, it is growing. It's just not growing as quickly as maybe some of the other sports did in the past. I think slowly divers are becoming more and more okay with it. But I would say the progression of the sport has boomed, where the dives have gotten just insanely difficult. But yeah, like you say, the numbers just haven't increased that much.
Yeah, you don't have enough people doing it. And this gets me into my next question, actually. Is there a bit of a conflict between the traditional divers and then the freestyle, more cliff diving, or are they coming together more, or is it like, parkour and gymnastics where they hated each other at first and then over time they kind of learn to get along?
I don't know, not really. I've met some of the freestyle jumpers, and they all seem like pretty cool guys, and they were all pretty nice to me. But other than like, you see some occasional comments on social media about they're not even jumping from a cliff, or this is an abomination to the sport of cliff diving. It's kind of like, well, like we are jumping from the cliff some of the time, but it's also kind of like, well, how do you think we learned to jump from the platform? I mean, everybody jumps off cliffs at some point. We're all coming from the same place. But I don't have any problem with what they're doing, and I would hope they don't have any problem with what I'm doing, because it's virtually the same exact thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. But you know how people can be, right? They get in their head that their way of doing the sport's the only way, and anyone who changes it, is a bad person.
Yeah.
But that's good. It's good that you guys don't have that issue, because we've had a lot in gymnastics, as gymnastics and trampoline and all that sort of stuff has kind of left, and it's now going out in the environment, and that's changed the way that people do the sports and stuff. And there's some coaches that are just they don't follow the athletes. They just expect the athlete to sort of come to them instead, and their nice little controlled gym. But everyone's now leaving, so it's changing the dynamics between athletes and coaches in many ways, and it's kind of interesting to watch. Do you guys actually compete for money with Red Bull or with FINA?
Yeah. So the Red Bull series and the the FINA events are all prize money based. So with the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, the prize money is based on each event, but then there's also overall prize payouts at the end of the season. So obviously you're trying to have a good result at every competition, but you also really want to have a nice standing in the overall standing. Not only is that going to get you a payout for the season, but it can pre-qualify you for the following season.
Okay, so you can win money at each competition. You can win money at the end if you have an overall great season. And to add even more of an upside, then that also helps you get picked then for the next year, so that then you are not just a wild card, you're an actual part of the series competitor, and that allows you to potentially win even more money.
Correct.
And how much money are we talking here? Is it a livable wage? Is it just part-time income? Is it really good money, really crappy money?
I would say it's livable for some, but for the most part, the divers do have other sources of income. Me, myself, last year I was third on the Red Bull Series, and I did pretty well at the FINA events and other events, but my primary income is still coming from other sources, which is television and film.
Right. Are you allowed to say how much you get for top 1, top 2, top 3 at a competition, or is that all confidential?
I mean, I don't know how much of a secret it is, but it's around, we have like even last place gets paid on the series, because, well, I mean, you don't want to, how do I put this? if not everybody's getting paid to go out and do this, I don't think you're going to have people to compete against. So we've structured it in a way trying to keep everybody making a little bit of money throughout the series, because it's a huge commitment to train for these events and travel all over the world throughout the summer, and you have to survive through the winter somehow, and it's tough to keep a job through the winter. So we're trying to make sure that everybody gets something, no matter what happens. So if you show up and you get injured, you should still get last place prize money. But as far as the money goes, let's say each event I think is around $7,000 to the winner, and then let's say now it might be around $2,000 to the last place guy. So it's not like a huge discrepancy between first and last. I mean, it's big, but it's also like you're still getting something. Well,
that's interesting, because if like you said, this Gary is cleaning up, then that's 7,000 times 15 per year, theoretically, hypothetically, of course. But so if you kick butt, then you could do pretty well. But otherwise, it gets you at least. So if the $2,000, that come out of you in the expenses. So if it costs you $2,000 to get there for the week, and then it's all gone, or is that on top of being expenses covered?
So Red Bull is only 7 to 8 events. So that's Red Bull's prize money. It's around $7,000 for the winner.
Okay.
FINA events are a little bit different. Like World Championships is a little bit higher. Well, it's a lot higher. I think it's $20,000 for the winner.
Oh wow.
And then World Cup is 10,000. It's like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, something like that. For as far as winning every event for a season, even Gary, nobody's done it yet. But maybe somebody will someday. I don't know.
There'll be one kid that comes up. He's born right now, by the way, and he's gonna come up and he's gonna slaughter everybody, and just I don't know. He's gonna do the first
Reed did it last year for the women. She swept every event, including World Cup and World Championships.
Good for her.
But
wow, that's impressive.
Hasn't happened with the men yet.
Not yet. One day. It's funny.
One day.
In gymnastics trampoline, you get, $3,000, $4,000 for just a few World Cups here and there. So no one's really making a living off trampoline yet. And this is what we're seeing with the new age sports, is that they're jumping to the financing first and foremost. Gymnastics is old, so it's kind of like they expect you almost to kind of commit to the system, and you pay lots of money into it. But we're seeing these new age systems sort of getting built, new sports, and they seem to be doing more what you're saying, which is make sure everyone kind of gets covered first. Because, again, no one has to do these sports. This is all extracurricular in some level. We could all just go work a regular desk job. So if you're going to want people in, like you said, ultimately you got to show them the money first, and then from there you can develop the sport, which is different than the way the older sports have done it.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't mention all of the Red Bull events and all the outside invitationals and FINA, they're always going to pay flight, food, and accommodation first. Okay. So they will get your flight. It's coach. It's always coach. And then they'll put you in a hotel and pay for your meals. And then the prize money is always going to be additional on top of that. So you go out somewhere for a week, you're going to make $2,000 minimum. But to be qualified for one of those events, super difficult. And then if you qualify for one, that might be your only one for the season. But on top of that, to qualify for 2 or 3, more difficult. To qualify for the whole series, also just really, really tough. It's super competitive. And if you can stay qualified and stay on the series for several years, you're gonna get better. You're gonna get more comfortable with it, and you're probably gonna make a little bit more money. At this point, you're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything like that. You're living.
You wish. Well, that's still good, We got a lot of these freestyle guys that they're just trying to figure out how they can make a living, even just a regular living, but doing what they love. And I think that's where the world is going, is not this regular 9-to-5 job. It's somehow taking my passion and being able to monetize it.
Yeah. Shows. That's how everybody does it. Start shows.
Yeah, well, Cirque is very interesting. They made a partnership with the FIG, so they basically scout from our gymnasts, and then that's how they get tons of their people. I'm assuming that they have scouts that go then to your diving competitions, right?
Not that I know of. Cirque, I think they would just expect, if you wanted to get in, they'd expect you to send a video or fill out a packet. At least that's how I did it when I was...
That's interesting. So for us, they will actually come to the gym because they have a special deal with the FIG, and then they will do scouting right there, and then you just got to go and sign up for a scouting thing. It's not just online. It's actual live things, which I think basically bypass you the line. Like if you do it online, then you basically go into the spam folder kind of thing. But if you actually go to one of their scouting things, then they can pick you right then and there, in a sense, if you get through their levels.
Yeah, I think your trampolinists and acrobats are a lot more valuable in Cirque than high divers. I think that's probably what it is, because there's only one show that I know of where Cirque needs high divers, and that's and then there's the Franco shows. They have a bunch of high diving. I think there's 3 shows with high dive in the Franco Dragon shows, but
I guess they seem to. It's tough to create a rig that allows you to dive and stuff. I guess that's a little out of their wheelhouse.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have to have a 70 or at least a 70-foot ceiling with a pool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot.
And then, for the most part, if you're doing a Cirque show, you usually do 3 acts. So I think it's a lot easier to convert an acrobat trampolinist to learn 3 different acts than it is a high diver. You can end up being sort of a one-trick pony, if you know what I mean. But
is that what happens with diving? You kind of pick your 3 or 4 skills kind of thing that become your go-to for competition, and that's kind of it?
Well, I just mean, like, if you're just hiring a high diver, you might, as a Cirque caster, I would probably be looking for somebody that I could teach multiple things, and then maybe I could teach them high dive later, as opposed to taking a high diver and saying, well, how's your tumbling? You know,
yeah,
I think versatility is much more important in a show.
Yeah, just like what you were saying earlier. I agree with that. It makes more sense. I just thought it'd be kind of cool. I would like to see more high diving kind of shows. I know they had, like, not a high dive, but they had a diving show in Vegas with the pirate ship, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Someone got hurt, and then they took that out.
Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was because somebody got hurt. But, yeah, I remember when they used to do those shows. I remember the divers, some of the performers said it was freezing cold a lot of the time. And you wouldn't think it's Las Vegas as being cold, but they're outside on the strip. And, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I hate the cold. So this is when I first started. I actually tried diving for a couple months when I was just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, man, this is going to be fine. It's going to be easy. I get a flop in the water. But then when I realized that it's 2 seconds of a jump, then I had to stand and wait and freeze until I get to go again, and then I had to wear a Speedo. I was out. I was like, all right, no thanks. So that was
I'm done.
That was my short-lived diving career.
Yeah. No, that was the same thing. I was like, I'm not wearing a Speedo. I'm going to go skiing.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually I went back to the Speedo. But.
Well, that's cool. It's very interesting. Well, that's going to wrap up our show for this week. And I just want to say thank you again, Andy, for coming on the show and giving us a little insider perspective on the whole cliff diving circuit and obviously your participation in that. So thank you so much.
Sure. Anytime.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a few things. There's a big world out there worth exploring, and I'm happy to be able to bring these great experiences right to you through this podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast and learned something, please share and take a screen grab of our funky cartoons and hashtag GRT certified for a chance to win a shout out to our community. Also, please leave us a review to be part of helping this information get out into the industry. It's much appreciated. Along with these podcasts, we have a large online content hub that we call the GRT Network, with many other interviews and full tutorials and written content discussing everything about acrobatics. We will be constantly growing this archive of videos like a cross between Netflix and Wikipedia for anyone in the acrobatic industry. We also have a complete online educational program for athletes of all levels that provides a do-it-yourself pathway to success for any acrobat. Check out our constantly growing library of playlists that will teach you anything from tightening up your social media, to how to get around fear, to even learning all the biology that underlies all your acrobatic skills. We work very hard with our team around the world to provide this exclusive content for you and appreciate any donations made to the FTA to help keep these episodes coming at you. And if you want all the content, become a GRT Network full member to get exclusive content before everyone else and access to special discounts and giveaways through our amazing global partners. Thanks guys, see you next episode.